Intamin Amusement Rides is one of the largest manufacturers in the industry. They've created many top-tier coasters, such as Skyrush or Intimidator 305. However, they've taken a break from the huge thrill attractions in America. This caused many people to believe they might never return to their old ways, but boy were they wrong. Intamin is coming back stronger than ever, first with those switch track Spike Blitz coasters, then with Walibi Belgium's insane mega coaster, and now, and by now I mean legit a few hours ago, they released 6 new insane coaster models. Today I'm going to be taking a deeper look at these rides and analyzing everything there is to see so that you know what to expect from these new models. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now the first we'll cover is their water coasters, starting with the Ultra Splash. This is essentially their version of a Mack Ride's Power Splash, but with a few key differences. If you know the Mack version, it's basically a shuttle coaster that uses an LSM launch to propel the train back and forth down the layout, consisting of 2 vertical spikes and a big splashdown at the end. The first big difference you'll notice is that Intamin is utilizing a wide single rail track instead of typical track with a spine and other multi-pieces. Now, I'm not exactly sure what they're accomplishing with this new design, however, seeing how fast the RMC Raptors run, maybe we could potentially see this coaster go faster, but honestly, I don't really know. The next big difference that Intamin's version has is an extra row, which puts it at 6 rows with 4 across seating instead of just 5 rows. This will obviously increase the train's capacity, which should lead to a faster moving line, but to be honest, it's not going to make a substantial difference. And there really isn't much else to talk about with this model. There isn't a dual station, which is a missed opportunity. I think they could have benefited from doing something like the Mr. Freeze clone station. That would boost capacity and lead to shorter and faster moving lines. But knowing Intamin, it probably would have had a lot of technical difficulties. No offense, I'm still Intamin for life, that's for sure. So yeah, that's about all it for this model. Next up is the Giga Splash. Not Giga Coaster. Sorry to disappoint y'all. But anyways, this model is very similar to a typical river raft ride, except they modernized it even more than possible. It features a long water channel with several crossovers and interactive moments. And by the way, if this ride has the same effects and theming that it does in the animation, then we are in for a treat. With all the rock work and waterfalls, it just looks so awesome to me. After all the slow water channels, you are actually taking up a rotating elevator style lift on a piece of their single rail track. And yes, I'm aware they copied RMC, you can relax now. This will freak out the GP and provide some great views of the surrounding area. Now what I find really cool is the way Intamin designed this drop. Once the train reaches the peak of the elevator lift, the small piece of track you're sitting on will align itself with the drop and then release, doing a gravity max type thing. So what I love about this is since the ride is on a track, it allows for a very steep drop, which means airtime. How cool is that? Airtime on a water coaster? So when you descend that drop, you hit a maximum angle of descent of 87 degrees. That's steeper than most regular coasters. Heck, it's nearly vertical. After that, instead of hitting a splashdown, the train will rise into a small ejector hill, which is once again thanks to the train being on track instead of just normal slide material. Following that element is the big splashdown, and you're going like 60 miles an hour here, so you'll get soaked. Also, they added an observation bridge right above the splashdown, so you can get wet there too. This will also make the ride a lot easier to film, and that will conclude your ride experience. So overall, I think Intamin struck gold with this one. They made a usually pretty mild water ride into a high thrill coaster. Yes, this is a coaster. I really love this idea, especially with the tall steep drop, airtime hills, awesome rock work. It's just so cool to see an upgrade on an original idea. Once again, this ride will have those 6-row, 4-across seats, and the great thing about these water coasters is you can have tons of train on at the same time, so I'm willing to bet capacity won't be an issue at all for this ride. And that's about it for this model. The Giga Splash looks simply awesome. Moving on from water coasters, let's take a look at the highly controversial Hot Racer. Now there are 3 separate layouts within the Hot Racer: Infinity, Overdrive, and Autodrome. All of these use the new single rail track and single file seating, which is exactly like an RMC Raptor. Some people don't like the idea of Intamin copying RMC, but personally I don't really care because we all know how insane the Raptors are, and if there are going to be more of those around, I'm not complaining at all. However, there is one big buzzkill with the Raptors, and that is those restraints. I've been told by many people that these really dig into your shoulders and cause a lot of pain throughout the ride. However, INTAMIN is using lap bars on these new models. I think this could be the driving factor that makes parks interested in purchasing a hot racer over a Raptor. Okay, never mind. After hearing myself out loud, that's just what enthusiasts like. But getting into the specifics, let's first cover the Autodrome. This is their dueling model, and it's strikingly similar to West Coast racers at Six Flags Magic Mountain. It features 2 side-by-side launches into multiple airtime hills, inversions, and the most interaction moments on any coaster in the world. It also has 75 seconds of prime ride time, and a track length of 3,343 feet. And yes, I did search that up on Google, just search up the translation, meters to feet. Also, this is going to be a Mobius loop coaster like Twisted Colossus. This means that it has one track, like one complete layout, that switches its side at the end of the first half. I know it really does sound confusing, but it's basically just 2 coasters in one. However, I do count it as 1 credit. Now, we haven't gotten a full POV, so I can't really analyze the layout, but it does look very strong. Next, let's talk about the Infinity model. Once again, this is going to be a dueling coaster with 2 separate tracks, and INTAMIN is claiming that this is the world's most compact dueling coaster, and to be honest, I believe it. This ride looks like one gigantic spaghetti bowl section. There is one shot where we can see the full layout. Each side is practically identical. They both start off with a launch into a big left-hand overbank. Then the blue side will go through a corkscrew while the red side will hit a twisted airtime hill. And for some reason, they're calling this the world's first 360 versus S-hump. Yeah, maybe they were a little too inspired by RMC. Both sides will hit a few turns and bunny hills before a second dueling launch. Following these are 2 large intense bank turns before another 360 versus S-hump. Except this time the red track is doing the inversion and the blue track is doing the twisted airtime hill. A few more filler bunny hills and lateral moments lead the trains into one final turn before sliding into the brakes. I personally think this layout is pretty sweet. It might not be the longest, but it sure does look to pack a punch in that period of time. I think this will be great for average-sized parks in need of a coaster that fits in a small footprint. Overall, this layout looks very fun, intense, and just very well-rounded overall. And last but not least, we have the Overdrive. Unlike the others, this is not a dueling coaster, but it still has a multi-launch, and every element on this ride is taken fast. There is just back-to-back-to-back snappy, intense transitions and tons of ejector airtime. Its track length is only 1,778 feet, so it's not a very long ride at all, but my gosh, what it does have looks ridiculous. After that second launch, the train soars into an absolutely insane wave turn. No, I'm not gonna call that a wall ride dive. But anyways, it's not taken super fast, but just imagine Lightning Rod's wave turn, but on complete steroids, and this is what you end up with. You are completely over vertical, like you're hanging sideways, and I imagine you're gonna get that weird hang time sensation here. This looks to me like the standout element on this coaster and the standout layout out of the 3 showcased. So if I had to rank these 3 layouts, it would probably go 1 Overdrive, 2 Autodrome, 3 Infinity. And the only reason the bottom 2 aren't switched around is because the Infinity's layout is just a little too short. And the last model we'll cover is a pretty weird one. It's simply called Vertical LSM Coaster. Out of all of these models, this is the only one that uses standard INTAMIN track instead of that new single rail design. Interestingly enough, this layout is basically identical to a Skyline Skywarp Eclipse. However, INTAMIN is way better than Skyline in every possible way, so this will probably sell better if it does come to be. The layout is really funky, but pretty cool to be honest. You start off with a swing launch, and on the 3rd time around, you will be propelled up and into the rest of the layout. Now, instead of flipping back to right side up like a Skyrocket 2, you actually stay in that position for an upside down LSM boost, which is a world's first. This looks like one of the most insane hang time moments ever. Once the train reaches its peak height, it pulls into a torpedo dive, which is basically just a flying snake dive at a downward angle. Following this, the train will hit into a zigzag loop, also known as a non-inverting loop. Then you will slowly decelerate via swing launch and come to a stop. So there are 2 key things that make this coaster look awesome to me. 1, the inversions are funky as heck, and 2, it has lap bars. Yes! INTAMIN has fixed the key problem with almost every Skyrocket 2. Wasn't very hard to do, and I'm not sure why Premier Rides hasn't done it more, but I am very glad to see that. And there really isn't much else to talk about with this ride, and to be honest, the rest of these layouts. Besides the Giga Splash, they're all improved versions of already existing rides, but nevertheless, they all look awesome. It's really great to see INTAMIN back with more new models. So that's a wrap for my analysis of Intamin's new coaster models. I truly believe they are going to make a big comeback in the amusement industry. And before you go, I'd really like to apologize for being gone for such a long time. I simply needed a break from YouTube, and I was just putting too much stress on myself. However, I'm back now, and I should be back to posting regularly. I hope you understand. So if you like roller coaster content just like this, then make sure you subscribe and click that post notification bell for new coaster content once to twice a week. Comment below what you think of Intamin's new models, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. It really helps my channel fight against the YouTube algorithm. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.